Hello, hello. There's no background audio. It's easy to fix though. Ding ding. I see the problem. There's the mute button. It's frequently the mute button. Like, it's a noise. Yeah, the little cat that changes when I'm talking. Maybe a little bit of applesauce. Applesauce is for me, not for you. Although, you too can buy an apple and throw it in the blender. I also threw in some strawberries, so I have strawberry applesauce. I think it's time maybe I'll add a pinch of salt. Because I leave the skins on, because they're good for you. Vitamins and minerals and fiber and whatnot. But they also have a slightly bitter taste. And salt has the effect of dampening your tongue's bitter receptors. So you don't need sugar, you want salt instead. It's also why some people like salt in their coffee, probably. It's because having a little bit of salt dampens some of the bitter notes of coffee. I don't really like coffee at all, I just don't like the taste. That's just me. Does have me wondering though, is applesauce a drink? Like a smoothie? Or is it a soup? Or is there a difference? Is the soup to drink? Is that a continuum instead of something like definitive categories? And you can say the difference is that smoothies is kind of a paste, and soup is a liquid with solid things floating in it. But does that make boba tea a soup? Because it's tea with tapioca pros? It's tea soup. I guess it would be tapioca soup, because we usually label the soup by the solids and not by what the broth is made out of. So it's tapioca soup with tea broth. You may never know. Sleepy afternoon. Feel like much of the U.S. is finally seeing some lower temperatures. As you live in the stretch from kind of a triangle between like Rapid City, South Dakota, down to Los Angeles, and then across to Tampa or Miami. That whole section is pretty terrible. Picture I'm looking at doesn't have any numbers on Mexico, but it looks like Mexico is a little bit warm right now as well. Probably most of the Caribbean. Minnesota to Virginia to Maine, part of the country. It's finally getting a break. I may knock off a little bit early tonight. Go work on my lawn so my neighbors don't get mad. I know. Touching grass may disqualify me as a VTuber. May disqualify me as a YouTuber in general. I don't know how many of them can manage grass. I mean, I guess some of them, their entire channels are about the outdoors. Of those, I particularly like Dan Hurd Prospecting. It's where a fellow by the unsurprising name of Dan Hurd, given his channel name, goes out and performs the unsurprising activity of prospecting, also given his channel name. His channel name is very on the nose. He goes out and finds gold or gemstones or interesting minerals, stuff like that. He looks either for new claims or claims that have been abandoned. Tries to see whether a lot of these claims that got abandoned ends up in British Columbia and Canada, I think. A lot of those claims were abandoned in the 60s and the 70s. And some of our techniques and tools have gotten better since then, so he goes and he'll take samples and do assays and figure out if maybe some of these sites are viable, essentially profitable again. And if so, then he'll partner up with a bigger company, a company with power tools and heavy equipment. And they'll try opening the mines again. He does have a couple of interesting gold and or mineral claims that he renews year after year. He sells the results on his auction site, which is selling them as souvenirs is often pays better than selling them by weight. You're not gonna make a lot of money panning for gold by hand. It's just a fun hobby. But the people who want to buy his souvenirs sometimes use up his whole stock of gold until he'll sell some of the gold from his friends. He has a bunch of friends who also have gold and mining related YouTube channels. So when he runs out of stuff that he's collected himself, he'll sometimes sell some of his friends' findings. But he also collects stuff like citron and garnets, red garnets and black garnets. Once in a while he'll pick up something like sapphire. What are they called? They're called, colloquial name is thunderstones, or thunder eggs. They're nodules, so it's minerals that filled into bubbles when volcanic deposits cooled. Right, sometimes they cool with bubbles inside of them, and then other minerals will filter in and crystallize over the years. Yeah, thunder eggs are kind of like geodes. The two categories kind of overlap. If there's a thunder egg that's a little bit hollow, sometimes it'll be a geode as well. It'll have crystals with a hollow in the middle. Or some sort of silicate mineral. Pretty sure. Although sometimes they have other stuff mixed in, like amethyst. I don't know. Is amethyst a silicate mineral? You don't know the answer. Yes. Amethyst is violet quartz, and quartz is made out of silicon. Although technically that would make it not a silicate, because a silicate is silicon oxygen. Quartz is more or less pure silicon. So, nope, incorrect. Quartz is a silicate, as the oxygens. I do like these purple ones though. Can't see very well because I've got the color filter on, so you don't get blinded. Yeah, in crystal structures, it's always a little bit hard to kind of say, is it a silicon with 4 oxygens? And if you just took the anion like they have here, then you would say yes. right? But typically those oxygens are going to connect to other silicon atoms in this case, right? So then on average, you might only have 2 oxygens per silicon atom. Like quartz has. I'm pretty sure quartz goes. I have a picture of it here. I have a picture on the amethyst page, maybe over on the quartz page. Yeah, I have some pictures. Yeah, so it goes oxygen, silicon, oxygen, silicon, oxygen, silicon, silicon. Always alternating. We do make artificial quartz. You can buy glass made out of it. It's very expensive. Requires quite high temperatures to make quartz glass. Although often when you're making quartz glass, instead of trying to grow single crystals, you'll make quartz powder and then you'll fuse that together. Kind of depends on what properties you want, though. If you want optical properties, like you want to use it for a lens, probably want to go with monocrystalline. Same thing with sapphire. You make lenses out of sapphire. Yeah. I think synthetic gemstones are just barely out of reach for most people. The reason I can't really recommend making synthetic gemstones at home is because it involves oxygen, hydrogen, fire. So it can be a little tricky to control if it gets away from you. Hydrogen flames aren't, that much more dangerous than, say, a propane flame. I think they're enough more dangerous that I can't really recommend it as a home science experiment. Although I gotta be honest, I probably wouldn't recommend many home science experiments using propane flames either. Yep, you should definitely consider taking some chemistry classes though, because there's lots of fun and interesting things you can do with household chemicals. None of which, or almost none of which, will I be discussing on the internet, where people I don't trust to use the knowledge responsibly could get it. But sometimes it's just a matter of if you know the actual chemical name for something, you can buy it from a chemistry site for less than the corresponding household version. For instance, you take quote unquote non-chlorine bleach. Common brand name is OxyClean, cleans with oxygen. It probably has some anti-caking agents in it to make it not clump up, but that's predominantly just sodium percarbonate, which for the price of, you know, one 1 kilogram, 2 and a bit pounds of OxyClean, you can get 50 pounds of percarbonate. So I have a big metal trash can next to my washing machine that's just, yep, it's just non-chlorine bleach, quote unquote, powder. It's sodium percarbonate. And I I think I last refilled it like 2 years ago. So uh, that tells you the difference in the amount. But I like to do that for stuff that doesn't go bad. And in this case, it comes in a paper bag inside of a plastic bag inside of a anodized trash can. Doesn't react with the environment, so it's a pretty stable chemical. As long as you don't heat it up, it'll break down if you heat it up. But the reason that it works for your laundry is because when you put it in water, it breaks down into basically baking soda and hydrogen peroxide. You could use hydrogen peroxide on your clothes as well instead of chlorine. But it's cheaper to get percarbonate. And liquid hydrogen peroxide is not as stable. It does break down at room temperature. Slowly, but it does. Yep, handful of math and chemistry. I know people that use that same idea to get deals on not just laundry chemicals, but swimming pool chemicals. There's some interesting things you can do with food, but mostly no one bothers because there's not a big cost benefit to it. Right, for instance, sodium citrate. Right, that's just citric acid and baking soda will do it. If you don't want to buy pure citric acid, then you could do it with lemon juice. You get a pot full of lemon juice, you add baking soda to it until it's not sour anymore, and then you cook it down. And why would you want to do that, you say? Because the resulting chemical, sodium citrate, you put it in your cheese sauce. It makes the cheese melt more smoothly. You've always wondered why the nachos you make at home don't have smooth cheese sauce the way restaurants do. That's why. It's because you're not adding any sodium citrate. But you can buy sodium citrate on Amazon. It's like food grade stuff. If you're gonna eat it, make sure you buy the food grade stuff. And that's a general rule for life. If you're gonna eat something, buy the food grade stuff. There's exceptions to every rule. That one holds most of the time. If you don't want to buy sodium citrate, then what you could do is you could throw a couple of slices of American cheese into your cheese sauce. If you've always felt that American cheese was weird and not a cheese, well, you're right that it's weird. You really would have to classify it as a cheese, though, because it's just a young cheese, right? It's to make cheese. The first thing you do is you separate the curds and the whey, separate the milk into the solids and the liquids, right? So the curds are the proteins that have been solidified and clumped together. Then you squish them to get all the excess water and whey out. And technically, the result is cheese. It doesn't really taste like anything at that point. And it's what you do after that that determines what kind of cheese you end up with. So American cheese, they just throw in some salt and some sodium citrate. That's why it doesn't really taste like anything. It hasn't really had anything added to it, and it hasn't aged at all. Like a lot of cheeses, what you do is you mix in either a bacteria or a fungus, depending on what kind of cheese you want. And you stick them in a storage building somewhere, and you let them sit for 6 months, a year, 10 years, 20 years. Depends again on what you're making. And then the bacteria or the fungus adds flavor as it eats some of the sugars. Which is also sometimes why people with mild lactose intolerance can eat aged cheeses, is because some of those bacteriums eat the lactose. And if the lactose has been eaten already, then you don't have to worry about it. Or you can just take your lactase capsules. The microphone's doing that thing where it looks like it's picking up on a little bit of background noise. I keep getting buzzing sounds in the backgrounds of my videos, and it's not great. If the weather stays cool, then I can start turning off the air conditioner. That would be really nice. Or if I ever do this as more than a hobby, then I'll invest in some soundproofing. Either way, though, I will probably not stick with this air conditioner for the long term because it's loud and annoying. I'm gonna get some renovations done in the next year or so. I'll either put in mini splits or I'll put in central air. Either one would be quieter than having a air conditioner in my window. I used to have a big air conditioner, but it's broken right now, so that's why I'm using the window unit, which is noisy and annoying. But I'll get that replaced. I'll have the whole thing replaced, as well as probably my furnace, which is about 70 years old. I'm trying to make my house more efficient, which is going to involve putting insulation in parts of my house too, because the oldest parts of my house were built 100 years ago, and they don't have much insulation. Most years it doesn't get too hot or too cold here. So typically by September I can start turning the air conditioning off. I don't really need to turn the heat up until November or so. Mostly very mild. Wet though. Lots of rain all year round. What was I working on? It's probably the kitchen. Die of dehydration. brain resting to it. Be a little too big. That's this version. Wraps around the edge of the screen. So you kind of need to be able to see both edges at the same time. something, or it's just checking in, seeing how things are going. Sometimes he does that. Just he has to patrol different sections of the house, make sure he always knows what's going on. Excuse me. It's only Tuesday. It's what I say. But lately I'm trying to stay active even over the weekends, so I'm trying to be active every day. It's not really great for you to just kind of veg out and sleep all day on the weekends. No, no. No, no, no. Yep. It's not time for your dinner yet. I don't know for sure that that's what he's asking for, but that's usually what he's asking for. That's cool. Yeah. Now you're gonna come up with the desk code. Still won't get anything. Except for some attention. I can get some attention. It's funny. He knows he's not allowed to step on the keyboard. So instead he puts his hind feet on one side of the keyboard and his front feet on the other, so that I can't type. But he's not technically breaking the rules. It's not technically breaking the rules. Of course, he's not totally clever, so when he goes to leave, he makes sure his front feet don't step on the keyboard, but then he tends to walk all over it with his back feet. So goofy. Centerpiece for last, so that makes a fun pattern when it flashes the new win animation. Billy Goose. Now he's meowing, meowing, meowing. Yeah. I heard you. Oh, yeah, you will not make it, you didn't. That's not how that works. Really, most of the improvements that you can make are based on the moves that you're making to get things in position. using those to get the pieces that you're going to need later into a better position as well. Over here, these 5 in right order. Alternatively, 30, so that's going to be the 31, the 32, and the 33. Fit on that last part more efficiently. It's fine though. Not competing with anyone. Not that I know of anyway. this game is basically these numbers around the edge tell you how many of these blocks can be seen. Right? A taller block obscures a shorter block. So the one in the middle on the right side means that you can't see any of the blocks except for the one that's right next to it, which means you have to put the tallest block next to it in order to obscure all of the others. So that's why whenever you have a 1, you get the 5 there. And the only way to see all 5 is to put them in order. So that's why the column that has the 5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the rest of the logic is basically just figuring out which numbers cannot go there. So when you have a 2, right, you can't put a 5 next to a 2. Because then it would block all the other things. You only get 1. For the same reason you can't put 5 or 4, 3 next to 4. Because they would block too many. In that case, that only left the second row available for a 5. Now we've placed 4 of the 5s. The last one can only go there. So, this has to be less than the 4. You're snack in half an hour. See what it is. It's back to just staring at me. He's never allowed to misbehave to get what he wants. If he tries to get my attention with his teeth or his claws, for instance, then he just gets put on the floor. And he gets nothing for his efforts. Because if I ever let him bully me into getting what he wants, then he'll try doing it again and again. And I don't want that. So, when he thinks it's dinner time, then he comes up and he tells me. And if he's right, then I'll go and I'll get it. Usually after picking him up and using him some head scratches. Yes. Because I don't want to reinforce the idea that making noise gets him what he wants either. At least not that strongly. So comes and he talks to me. Get him some attention so that he knows that I'm listening. But I just don't agree. Sometimes I tell him how long he has to wait, but I don't think he can tell time. So it doesn't help. Doesn't help. But I think he knows the tone of voice when I say, no, you have to wait a half an hour. Well, now you're stepping on the keyboard. That was an accident, though. He forgets that he has hind feet. So sometimes he steps on the keyboard with his back feet. I don't think he does it on purpose, though. Has a bar, the two numbers are adjacent. Doesn't have a bar, then they're not adjacent. So this one cannot be a 1. If 1 is adjacent to 2. It can't be a 2 because I've already used 2 in that one. It can't be 3 because that's adjacent. So that's 4. So now I know in the top right, I have one that's 1 or 3 and one that's 4 and 5. They have to be adjacent, so they have to be 3 and 4. When you have three in a row that are all adjacent like that, you know the middle one can't be the 1, can't be the 5. Right. Because then that would require, if it was 5, it would require 4 both above and below. It's the 1, it would require 2 both above. So that's not allowed. It has to go 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, or 3, 4, 5. Right. Because the middle number needs to be adjacent to both the number above and the number below. Which means they need to be a sequence. They have to go in order. So that tells me that the square can't have a 3. Because no matter what I pick on this square, eliminate 3 from here. Doesn't really tell me a lot, but at least now there are no 2s in that row. Because I didn't know it was given at the beginning. What else can I have? This square. Adjacent to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Which means it could be a 2 to 3 or 4. Can't have 1 because there's no 2 here for 2 adjacent to it. Yeah, either the 2 or the 4. This could be the 1 or... Let's see. The 4, the 5. I'll make that a 1. 5. 4. Yeah, 3. Didn't really learn anything there. Oh, this one I know something about. I know that it's not a lot. Not a... It is. It's a 1, a 2, and a 3. This one is 4, 5, and it's still not the 4. So if it's 4, it's not the 4. 5, then it's not the 4. It's edges. Right, and the same logic holds for 5. Whichever one this is, this one cannot be. That logic is true over here as well. Right here. That one eliminates this 2. Because 1 and 3 are both adjacent to 2. For your snack. You're very good. You were very patient waiting. Couple put up in widescreen. Go get your snack. do think in 20 minutes or so, I'm gonna go offline if nobody comes in. I'm gonna go outside, take care of the yard work that I've been putting off. Managed to do a little bit of it over the weekend. Well, now that you've had your snack, you want to play? For whatever reason, after he has a snack, he always gets really energetic. Go find your sister. I bet she's being lazy somewhere. She could use a little more exercise. Yellow. Green. Made a mistake. That was one red, one yellow, two yellows. Think about it carefully. Pretty sure I have enough information. So in row 2, one of those yellows is correct and one is wrong. Wrong has to go on the far left. Okay. So the green, according to row 4, we know the other yellow is not in this third spot. So the yellow either has to go in 2 or 4. So we know that in row 6, one of those yellows is the one that's correct. So the orange is wrong, green is wrong, and one of the yellows is wrong. In row 5, we know the orange was wrong there as well. And one of the yellows was correct and one of the yellows was wrong. So the green was correct. Green definitely doesn't go. Okay, we do not have enough information to win because we don't know. Oops. There's a yellow there and green there. We don't know whether the orange goes on the left, yellow goes on the right, which happened to be the right answer. I clicked the wrong color. That could have also been the other way around. It could have been the yellow on the left. Took some extra turns. Which again, not a problem. I'm not competing. This was 50-50. This was 50-50. Now I know that that yellow doesn't go there on the left. I'm just trying to figure out where the red goes. So red goes there. So yellow, green, and some other color goes there. Oh, lucky it was blue. When I'm playing versus the computer, since the computer probably picks more or less truly randomly, I just go in order of the colors on the left. When I'm playing against a human, after they've selected their pattern, I take one of each color in my hand and I jumble them up and I roll them out on the table to pick which order I do the colors in. that way a human opponent can't pick colors that cause me to lose. That makes sense, right? A human who knows me knows which colors I like the best, right? And will avoid those colors. So I randomize the order that I do the colors in so that my personal preferences don't come into it. I have this first move that I make where I put all four of the same color. That's not the best move. Sure is the easiest move, though. Right, there's a strategy that I think gets you a result in the worst case one faster than what I usually get in the worst case. Because in the very, very worst case, you can, with my strategy that I use here, you can push me up to, I think, 8 guesses based on 6 colors and 4 columns. Maybe 9. I mean, this game here gives you 10 guesses, so I'm guaranteed to win in 10 guesses if I don't make a mistake. So here I had 2 correct and 1 in the wrong place. So if yellow was correct, then none of the greens could be in the wrong place. So the yellow was the one that was wrong. Which means the other 2 are the greens. Okay. So the fact that I got this pattern means that the yellow is still in the wrong place. Was the one that was wrong, so that one was the one that was correct. So the reason why I keep one that I know is wrong in the column there is to just narrow down how many positions are available if I get one that's correct. But this is the situation in which that backfires. Right. So now I don't know whether that column that I had marked is wrong because all 3 of those blues were right. I don't know if the answer is 4 blues or whether an orange or a purple goes there. So this is one of the circumstances that pushes me up above the number of colors is when something like that happens. And here's another one where I'm still searching for a position, even though I'm at the last color. So I'm still right. I get nothing but my first couple of guesses that I'm probably going to go over 6. As long as I get some information on my first guess, it's almost always going to be 6 or less. But the sun's going down, so I need to head out and do a little bit of yard work. So I'll sign off. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.